All right, so our goal is to conclude this chapter, this very powerful chapter of Tanya, chapter 27, and then begin chapter 28. So we are towards the end of the chapter. We are at the bottom of page 68, 2, 4, 5 lines from the bottom. I'd actually had to think today, like, did we finish the chapter last week? Did we not? Did we not? I looked at the words. I'm like, no, I didn't read those words to you. We didn't finish it yet. So what we were saying was that in the beginning, the first 2/3 of this chapter was discussing crushing your desire, your impulses for the forbidden. And don't feel bad when you have this desire, because that's how you actually serve God. And it's actually amazing. And it actually gives God the greatest elevation. And it gives God the greatest nachas. And it allows God to crush evil in the world. So it's a really amazing thing you're doing. I think I'd rather be a tzaddik. Tzaddik can't do this for God. But tzaddik, the perfect person, he gives God sugar. He gives God cake. He gives God candy. He gives God chocolate. You give God pickles. And there's a pleasure in pickles. And there's a need for them because there's a lot of evil in this world. And when you crush evil, evil's crushed in the world. The perfect tzaddik can't do this. He has no evil to crush. So you're doing something amazing. And then the last third of the chapter, we discussed continuing this and moving to an even higher level, so to speak, where you're not crushing something forbidden. You're actually crushing something permissible that you want to do. You're saying, wait, I want it. It's permissible. No problem. But not now. I'm going to put God first. I'm going to do something holy. I'm going to study. I'm going to pray. I'm going to do something for God. And then I'll do it. But I don't want it as much. And the Rebbe then continued. And when you do this, it's even more powerful. When you crush and delay the permissible, it's even more powerful than when you crush and don't do the forbidden. It's like such a gift because you're allowed to do this, but you're putting God first. And therefore it raises God even more, and it raises his holiness, and it draws down for you, something we didn't even talk about before, a special help for you to grow in your own spirituality. And there it says you only have to do this even a little bit. Even a little bit of doing this can really draw down the blessings to help you, to propel you forward in your spiritual journey. Now, last week, we asked if people had done this over the week, and thank God many people had, and we discussed how they experienced it. Did anyone do something new over this week because in honor of this concept, trying to apply it to their lives? And they would like to share with us their personal experiences? Stop not allowing yourself to do something that's permissible, but you're going to put God first. Well, I did basically keep up with my inspiration of the phone, which many of us share. That was, I think, just hit all of us very, very relevantly. It's a very, very, very relevant example for many of us. And I can't say it got easier or harder. It's not like crazy hard. And at the same time, there are reasons why maybe, I would just, no. We're going to daven first, which is nice because then every day I feel that, no, I'm making this conscious choice. I'm davening first. And it's a great feeling. It feels very, very, very good. Anyone else that continued there and wants to share how they're experiencing it?
Hi, it's Lisa.
Lisa?
I continue to have great success and happiness over praying first before even looking at my phone. I'm finding it to be a beautiful foundation to starting my day.
I'm so happy you kept it up. And it is such a beautiful foundation because you're starting off the day by saying, God, You come first.
Exactly.
That is a wonderful way to start. And it just feels like it's got to be a blessed day with such a good start. So I'm so glad that you were able to continue it. And I hope many other people as well. So we are now going to conclude the chapter. So the last thing we said again was, when you do this work, again, if you're reading it in the Tanya, you might think, oh, wow, that's like for some very holy person out there. But no, it's for me and Lisa and everyone else. And I know many people are doing their things as well. And then if me and Lisa are like not opening up our phones, not looking at our social media until after we pray, that's exactly this concept. And we learned that when you do that, even a little, meaning it doesn't have to be the greatest, most difficult challenge of your day. You might have others that are harder. But you're making a conscious choice to do something that is not required, but really expresses you're putting God first. So you are sanctifying yourself. You are crushing the permissible. And therefore, the Alter Rebbe said, there'll be a tremendous spiritual aid that will come to you to help you on your spiritual journey forward. So continuing this theme, the Rebbe explains, and this is what our sages say, if a person sanctifies himself a little below, meaning in this world, here, they sanctify him harbe. Harbe means very much, but according to Hasidic thought, it means like infinitely. It's a huge word. So you sanctify yourself a little below, and they sanctify you tremendously above. So the Rebbe says that's what's going on here. When you're, any of the examples, remember from us saying about the study before the morning coffee, or the Rachel spoke about setting the Shabbos table Thursday, any of those examples that are relevant to our world and really express each one of us in our own small details, putting God first, we're sanctifying ourselves a little. And God said, okay, thank you for giving me the opportunity to sanctify you a lot. That's what we mean by this help that's going to come down. It's going to help you attain sanctity. It's going to help you become holy. So as the Rebbe continues, besides which, through this you're fulfilling, by becoming holy, a positive commandment. The hiskadishtem. Hiskadishtem means and make yourselves holy. Now, for those of you with very good memory, in the beginning of this chapter, we were comforting the Benoni wannabe tzaddik who felt bad that he was still struggling. And the Rebbe said, hello, you're doing a mitzvah. You're doing a godly commandment. There's a godly commandment. Thou shalt not stray after their eyes and hearts. Guess what? The perfect tzaddik can't do this. He has no temptations. So he can never fulfill this commandment. But you're tempted. Great. You can fulfill this commandment. And every time your eyes and hearts start going in different directions, you say, no. You just fulfilled the prohibition. The Rebbe says, and now you're doing something else that the tzaddik, that perfectly godly person, can't do. You're fulfilling another commandment that he can't do. What's that? It's what that tzaddik can't do. V'hiskadishtem. V'hiskadishtem means make yourself holy. Well, the tzaddik, the perfect godly person, he's got a little bit of a problem with this because he already is holy. He's the real deal holy. So he can't make himself holy. He is holy. But me, I don't have such problems. So when I do these works and I, in small measures, sanctify myself, which is going to allow God to open up the door for tremendous sanctification to flow down, I am fulfilling this. I am not holy, but I'm making myself holy. Tzaddik can't do this. The tzaddik can't serve God this way, but I can. And when I do this work, I am. Now the Rebbe says, what do you mean about make yourself holy? What does it mean to be holy? Does it mean to be kosher? Does it mean to not desecrate the Sabbath? The Rebbe says, no. Those things are their own independent commandments. Here we have a new, different, separate commandment. Make yourself holy. So make yourself holy can't mean do what I told you. and keep the Sabbath and keep kosher and don't gossip and don't steal. Those all each are independent commandments. So what does this mean, make yourself holy? So the Rebbe explains what our sages say. It's not an innovative thought of the Alter Rebbe. He's quoting the sages. Sanctify yourself, dedicate yourself in the realm of the permissible. That's making yourself holy. So this idea that the Alter Rebbe is expanding on very greatly, it's really enrooted in this commandment and in our sages' understanding of the commandment. What is the commandment of thou shalt be holy? Is that another way of saying keep my laws? No. We have a separate commandment for each from the law. So what's this law about? Sanctify yourself, be refined, be godly where it's permitted. Oh, wow, that's holy. Where it's forbidden, it's forbidden. But where it's permitted, in that arena, to abstain or to do it in a very godly way, that's a whole different level. Yeah, that's called being holy. Like if you think of it, we sometimes have fast days. And of course, a fast day, you can't eat. And you're not eating for God. You're not eating to save your calories. Don't worry, you'll make up for it at night afterwards. You're not eating for God. But then we have another more difficult act, to eat for God. To fast for God means don't eat. And you're not eating because of God, so you're fasting for God. But to eat for God, that's much more challenging. That means you have to eat and think about him and eat in the way he would want and use the energies he would want. That's a whole very different higher level service. So similarly here, if God said, don't steal, it's very clear cut what you are doing to serve God. Or conversely, God said, pray. So you know what you have to do to serve God. But then there's this much more ambiguous, much more subtle arena of make yourself holy within the realm of the permissible. Take the permissible and make it godly by putting God first. By using it in a very consecrated, designated, refined, detached from the being pulled into that very physical animal space. That's how you make yourself holy. There's a famous Hasidic story with Baal Shem Tov that he was once with his students in a certain place, and it was Friday night, and they were passing by someone's house, and I don't know if they peeked through the windows or the door, however they saw inside. They saw this chassid, this person dressed as a chassid with all the shtreimel and the kapata, and he's in front of this beautiful lavish Shabbos table, and it's this beautiful Shabbos table, and the students were like, wow, it's such a gorgeous Shabbos table. And Baal Shem Tov looked very like serious. And then he told all the students to like create a circle, hand to shoulder, and ultimately join to him, like the energy source. And when they did so, the students were like, whoa, what's going on? Because they saw at the table the shtreimel and the kapata, but they didn't see a man. They saw an ox. And the ox was dressed in the shtreimel and in the kapata, eating away all those Shabbos foods. Because that was the reality the Baal Shem Tov saw. So sometimes we'd be sitting at a Shabbos table, but it's not a holy experience. Or you could be sitting at a Shabbos table, and it's a very holy experience. That's the subtle challenge. That's the hiskadishtem. Make yourself holy. So you're not holy, so you're human. So we all have very big, clunky clay feet. But make yourself holy. Act it anyway. Act as one would who is holy. And this is such a conduit to bring down godliness to your life. So viskadishim means make yourself holy. That's the grammatical understanding of the word. Which means to say, even though you're really not. In other words, if you were holy, you wouldn't have to make yourself holy. And that's why I said the tzaddik, the perfectly godly person, can't do this because he is holy, so he can't make himself holy. Making yourself holy implies you're not holy. You're not so holy. And then the Rebbe translates the real translation of the Hebrew kadosh, which we generically translate as holy, actually means separate. That's actually the literal etymological translation of kadosh, which we loosely call holy, and we always translate as holy, but the real root of it is separate. Because the Rebbe is saying really holy means separate from everything on the other side, everything not on God's side. We could say the term side of evil, but some of these things might not seem to be evil. but they're just not overtly godly or far worse than that. But separate means that none of those things you're attached to. That's when you're really holy, kadosh, because you're really kadosh. You're really separate from these energies of evil. Now, how do I know you're really not so holy? Because evil is still very, very strong on the left side of your heart. But Raksha Koivesh Yitzra, but he conquers his nature, and he sanctifies himself. So the Rebbe here is saying, this is an enormous opportunity for you with all your inappropriate desires, all the little junk in your heart and in your mind and all the pettiness, to totally transcend all of that, to become a person that we call holy. And this is how. Well, how could this make me holy? Because I'm only looking at my phone after davening, because I'm only grabbing my coffee after I learn something. Like, I mean, it's nice, but it's going to be holy? So the Lord said, yes, because when you do that, you allow God to pour down on you his energy for you to truly become holy, sanctified. So the verse says, we're talking here about a commandment, make yourself holy, act as if. Now the verse continues, if you look up the verse, make yourself holy, and you shall be holy. So the Alter says, oh wow, look what that's telling you. Kilomar, meaning to say, it's gonna happen. Your obligation is to act as if, to act holy even if you're not, to make yourself holy, to do acts of holiness, which means separation from even the permissible, dedicating and sanctifying oneself in the realm of the permissible, to give that also to God. And then what's going to happen? What does the verse continue? And you shall truly be holy. Because you will truly be holy, again, as we said, separate from the forces of evil. Also, how am I become holy? By delaying my phone and delaying my coffee. Because you're doing your little part. And God's going to do a very big chunk. Again, as the Rebbe repeats here, they will sanctify him harbe, very much, which again has this connotation of infinite power from above, from God's end. Umisaim also, and they will help from above, from the spiritual dimensions. You will receive divine aid, legarsha melibo ma'at ma'at, little by little, to drive the evil out of your heart. So it's not going to happen overnight, but it will happen. That the Rebbe is saying is, it's not like, so to speak, the Rebbe's guarantee. The Rebbe says it's God's guarantee. It's the Torah's guarantee. It's what's written explicitly in the verse. This will happen when you walk this road. Give it time. Keep walking. Set your spiritual goals, and see they will get accomplished. And then you can set new spiritual goals. And then you can set new spiritual goals as we walk that road to kadosh, to being holy, to being separate from the evils of this world. So with that, we conclude this chapter. So does anyone would want to think and tell me what was one of the takeaways they gleaned from this chapter? Because it's a very rich and powerful chapter, very practical, very relevant. So any ideas that struck you, any ideas you want to put in your toolbox, or things you're living with already? Well, if nobody talks, we're going to call on someone, so you got to get ready. All right, our small audience tonight. Sarah, what do you think?
Hello.
Hello.
Okay, I just unmuted.
Yes.
I'm having a hard time. I guess I have a hard time muting myself, so my computer.
Your computer
Um,
just mirrors that.
I get, I've been like, ever since I had my big birthday in Cheshvan, everything's like working on me. And, like, I guess one of the takeaways is that we're always in process. And you could say that about a lot of things, but so I'm thinking, how much, how, like, how long do I still have? I hope a long time, and I hope Mashiach's coming today, tomorrow, but, and I guess I'm, just trying to be better in many, many departments of Yiddishkeit and things like that. And some are easier and some aren't so easy. But for example, I took on a while ago Rabbi Wagner. Maybe I said this before. I don't know. He's ill and he's undergoing treatments. And I heard like a shir from him. Like he was like laid out and he was speaking that in the morning, Maida Ani, and then Asher Yatzar, and before we go to sleep, to say Kriya Shema Al Hamita, and to say Hamapil, with a lot of kavana. So I can't say I do every time, but Asher Yatzar, I try to stop and to say it, with more kavana. And it's meaningful, like as your body is kind of, not in the best shape all the time. It really, it really connects you with Hashem, with the physical.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Those are all very practical. And yes, I mean, we have this idea, "Hachayit in elibo." When people pass away, it's supposed to give us that sense of the preciousness and the opportunity of life and to utilize that opportunity. So you're saying as the birthdays accrue, that definitely makes sense. And it definitely is a definite strong point of this chapter, that constant growth. Absolutely. 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 Thank you so much for sharing that, Sarah. Someone else would like to share? Sarah got picked on, but someone else would like to share one of their takeaways from this chapter?
Hi, it's Lisa. I'll share something. When you were talking about sad or upsetting thoughts that you have, and that's not how God wants us to be, that God wants us to be happy, to be able to change the channel and redirect your mind to happier thoughts, godly thoughts, that it's a mitzvah to be able to do that.
Absolutely is. Look at what a wonderful, loving God we have, that it's a godly thing to be happy. It's indicative of a very strong godly space when you're walking around happy and in a good mood. And yes, that definitely was strongly in the chapter, in the beginning of the chapter, where we're speaking about this unhappy Benoni who just was so frustrated because he still wasn't a tzaddik, instead of saying, whoa, appreciate your role and your service of God. So yes, very strong message. Thank you for remembering and sharing it. Someone else has something that they walked away with from this chapter that they felt meaningful and want to remember? Want to keep somewhere in their crowded back pocket?
Hi, it's Dottie. Hi.
Hi, Dottie.
Hi. So given the events that are going on in the Ukraine, it behooves us to do what God wants us to do, because when there was another crisis like this with Stalin, the Rebbe went hurrah, 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 and a miracle happened. Stalin died. But I mean, we don't have the Rebbe to, to talk to us directly, in person. I know you may not agree with that, but I think we have to believe that this is the birth pains of Mashiach, and we have to do what God wants us to do. It's in our hands. And as Jewish women, we have this ability to daven and to make brachas on each other and to give us strength. And what the Alter Rebbe is telling us, please do what God wants you to do. Please do the right thing.
Please make the right choices. It's very beautiful what you brought in, Dottie. Yes, and that was, of course, a Purim miracle. The Rebbe killed Stalin on Purim of 1953. And we're coming up to Purim. Purim's a very powerful time. And you're absolutely right, Dottie. This is a time when a woman's energy is shining. Of course, as we know, the woman heroine of the day, Esther, not to dismiss Mordechai, but it's still the scroll of Esther. So definitely it's woman power unleashed. And yes, Huram means he is evil. We are identifying the evil and discarding it, dismissing it, negating it. And that's definitely the theme of this chapter. So definitely maybe what Dottie's saying, really what the Rebbe is saying here in this chapter is you are also so powerful in terms of your ability to crush evil, right? Dottie's talking about crushing evil, how the Rebbe crushed the evil of Stalin and the whole doctor plot that was set to destroy all of Russian Jewry that was stopped by Stalin's death. So that's exactly what we're talking about in this chapter. Dottie is so correct, because in this chapter, and to me, it is one of the most practical, relevant points that I have to pick out from like my top 10 from my love of Tanya and all of its chapters, is this concept that when we crush the evil in ourselves, this allows God to crush evil in the world. There's a lot of evil out loose, and we're very powerful people. And Purim's a very powerful energy, and it's a very femininely powerful energy. And how do we allow God to destroy the evil in the world? By crushing the evil in ourselves. That is definitely a very strong theme of this chapter. So Dottie's right. Very, very timely, current event, relevant. We should all really find something to crush that's evil. Now, that's not the same as delaying the permissible, which we're talking about is so beneficial and brings such blessings of our own spiritual growth. But really to find something inside of ourselves that's ugly, that's evil, that's wrong, and to really crush it and give God the message, God, there's evil out there in the world. This is how you said we get rid of it. I'm crushing the evil myself, and I know you are going to crush it right now, because I'm freeing you. I'm allowing you to do what you want to do and crush the evil in the world. So thank you, Dottie, for sharing. That is so, so relevant, so timely, and so the energy of this chapter. Absolutely. Anyone else have something that they took as a takeaway, something they walked away with from this chapter that they would like to share? Well, I appreciate everyone who shared, because it sort of reminds you, right? As each person had their own little prism of what struck them deeply, we get to benefit and be reminded of all of these great ideas. And of course, there are many other very, very powerful themes in this chapter. So thank you.
I think one of the things
Tama?
that I think one of the things I felt from trying to experience or explore the self-control and giving something over to God and not giving into your nefesh habahamis was so empowering that it made me feel more in control. Like it gave me that feeling of I'm not just being controlled by something else, that I have the control to make those choices. And someone was giving over, I was mentioning in a different class, they said that stopping and pulling back and not just doing is also a very big tool, and not getting tricked by the Yetzer Hara also, because when you could pull back and stop, then you have a chance to think, become less reactive. So it's really a muscle that's empowering that God is giving us. It's very, that's what I felt. I felt like I'm more in the driver's seat and not having impulses take me over. Anyway, that's
so true. I felt that also, but I think you expressed it better. I didn't have it as articulated in my mind, but I agree with you. I really also felt that's why I felt it was such a positive experience. I remember, like, 2 weeks ago, he'll just raise it as it seems like this negative, we're depriving ourselves. And I was like, no, it's not. It doesn't feel negative. It feels really good. And I think what Fruma is highlighting is one of the reasons why it feels so good. Yes, we're prioritizing God, and we're also like, we're not animals. We're not just, we're not governed by our instincts, must have, hand, eye, No, we really are in control, and we're making a choice. And we're, like you said, we're in the driver's seat. And that's a very good feeling, because sometimes the way the world is, you don't always feel that way. And you might feel just like out of control. And this is such a strong, powerful, and relatively simple tool. Really relatively simple thing to do. And as the Rebbe is emphasizing, it doesn't have to be this big, grandiose, amazing, we'll turn everyone's head situation. It could be small, but it's a statement. It's a statement to yourself, as Fruma was saying. And it's also something very powerful for God, which is why it draws down such energy for you to continue your journey forward. So thank you, Fruma. That's very true. I definitely experienced that over these past 2 weeks. Thank you, Chava, for giving us such a great application that we're utilizing. Anyone else have something they would want to share on the way that they digested the chapter, Rachel?
I could just say that what I learned is that closeness to God makes me happier, and my day goes much better if I actually do not give in to the Yetzer Hara when he tells me, well, daven later or learn later, or I know the difference when I don't do to when I do how I feel. And it really can take you into depression when you are not doing what you when you're not close to God. Then you when you're disconnected, it's a complete different feeling than when you are taking the time to actually connect. So yes.
I 100% agree with you, and I think that's very true. So Rachel's saying when she's doing this work, she really sees she has such a better day. So Fruma was sort of saying that because she was saying how she has a good sense of, she's in control of her life. She's not reactive. She's master. And I think Rachel's saying is also just on the more godly level. It's a different day if you daven properly or not. It's a different day. Like Lisa said before, you start off your morning right, so it changes your whole day. It's a different day when you put davening, put prayer before something else, put Torah study before something else. We all want to, we all know about it, but things get in the way. Well, just take away those things that get in the way and do this first. It's a little bit, or maybe for some, a lot of discipline. But I've often noticed in these things, maybe it's just me, but I often notice things sound more daunting than they really are. Like lighting candles early. Like, oh my gosh, I barely like them on time. I don't like them early. But if you just tell yourself that and trick yourself, it's not really a trick, you know what you're doing, but like tell yourself, listen, for you, this is the time Shabbos begins. That's what works for me the best. That's it. This is what time Shabbos starts. And then you just do it. Or you're just not going to touch your phone until after you pray. Well, that's it. That's your regimen. That's your routine. So that's what you do. Or many, 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 many other things. Like a lot of times it's like, whoa, that's intense. Wow, that feels like so deprived. Wow. Actually, it feels great. It feels great to be in control. It feels great to feel so close to God. It feels great that you're living. You know, there's a prayer we say in the morning after the Amidah, after the Shemon Esrei. It's entitled Uva L'Tzion Goel, and the Redeemer will come to Zion. It's a very beautiful prayer. And in it, towards the end of it, it's a bit long. About 2/3 of the way in, it has a line that I shouldn't live for emptiness and vanity. I shouldn't live for nothingness. I think that's what Rachel's saying. I think that's what she means about the depression. That if you feel it's just, what did you do? Just empty, then another empty day, and then another empty day, and then such a horrible, horrible at your core feeling, for sure for a Jew. And when you live and you stretch yourself and you push for God, you know you're really living. And it feels really good. And it feels really good to feel that close to God. So thank you very much for that. Anyone else have something they would like to share? Something they gleaned from the chapter?
I just want to add also that, you know, they say that a person without a Torah is like a fish without water, and that's exactly how it feels. To me, the studies is even more important than the davening. But I know when it's exactly like that. When you don't do it, you really feel like
A fish without
like
water.
a fish without water. Mamash.
It's true. It's true. And that's that existential pain that a Jew has when they're not connected to God. I saw once a letter from the Lubavitcher Rebbe where he writes, it was so powerful that he writes, everyone wants happiness. That's the universal desire of man. There it says, for a Jew, no, sorry, I don't want to misquote. The Rebbe says, and what creates happiness? True happiness comes from inner peace. Inner peace is what really is the root of true happiness, not shopping. And then the Rebbe says, and for a Jew, inner peace comes through his connection to God, through Torah and mitzvahs, through the Torah and the commandments. And there's many, many different vignettes and thoughts and writings of the Rebbe that all hover around this theme that for a Jew, our sense of purpose, our sense of identity, our sense of joy, our sense of alive comes from our relationship to God in the practice, not in the theory, in the practice of the Torah and the commandments. And that then we know we're alive, and then we feel joy. And the joy is really an indication that you appreciate this relationship. Like if you're serving God, but without joy, it's like, it's not very precious to you. It's not very special. It's just, he's God and I got to give in. And there's a lot of things he wants from me to do and not to do. And it's a long list. I better not get in too much trouble. And when you're happy doing it, the message you're giving God is, I love you and I want to be close. And I'm so excited. I have another way to connect. And that's why joy is so fundamental to our whole service. All right. Anyone else have something they would like to add from this chapter? Okay, so we are going to start chapter 28. Now, if you remember, and if you don't, that's fine too. We're sort of in a trilogy, chapters 26, 27, 28. Let's back up a little bit to remember the frame of reference here. The first chapters from 1 through 17 of Tanya created the long road of really working on yourself to create a love and fear of God through which you will serve him completely. Chapters 18 through 25, we're creating the short road, not of creating a love and fear, but of uncovering the natural love and fear embedded in our soul. And through that natural love and fear, to serve God completely. And again, be that Benoni, that person is completely dedicated to God. Starting in chapter 26, we said, wanting to be this person who's so committed, there's certain things we have to uproot and certain things we have to implant. We have to uproot sadness, as Rachel said, depression. We have to uproot this heaviness, this unfeeling state. And we have to implant instead joy. So these three chapters, 26, 27, and 28, are all around this theme of don't be sad. Don't be sad. Remove sadness. You're alive, you're with God, don't be sad. So the beginning of 26 was discussing the physical arena, a person's health, their finances, relationships, things that could make them upset, legitimate causes of upsetness, and the Rebbe gave a tool how not to get upset. At the end of chapter 26, the Rebbe said, okay, but what about transgressions? Like, I mean, we can say don't get upset if your car breaks down or even you lose your job or even if someone's sick, but we're not supposed to be upset if we sin. So at the end of chapter 26, we discussed what to do if you sin and how to deal with it without getting upset. All right, so chapter 26, we're done. We took care of all physical reasons for sadness and all spiritual reasons for sadness. We know we're not going to be sad. Now in chapter 27, we focus on something much more subtle. Spiritual, because all physical things we took care of in 26. But not a transgression, because that we also took care of in 26. So what was 27 about again? The Benoni who's upset that he has these thoughts in his head that he doesn't think. He's not sinning. He doesn't think the thoughts. He crushes the thoughts. But he's upset that they're coming to him. And that was the frame of reference of the whole chapter 27. So what's left? Chapter 28. So what else can we talk about? We know we're not supposed to be sad in any physical concern. We know we're not supposed to be sad over transgressions. We know we're not supposed to be sad over thoughts that come that we don't think. What's left? Well, in chapter 28, we speak about that same theme as chapter 27, not being sad when you're bombarded by thoughts, but here it's a different chapter, it's a different advice, because it's a different scenario, which that makes it a very significant difference. If you remember in the beginning of 27, we said, these are thoughts that bombard you during your regular mundane pursuits. And chapter 28 is when you're bombarded with thoughts during times that you're supposed to be holy, which most classically is prayer, Psalms, Torah study. Those are times that are holy. And when you're bombarded by these other thoughts, we can't tell you what we told you in the previous chapter. Because in the previous chapter, we said, oh, rejoice, you're serving God. You're fulfilling the commandment of thou shalt not stray. You are fulfilling the commandment of thou shalt be sanctified. You are causing great elevations above. You are crushing evil. You're doing amazing stuff. Hey, this is cool. Let those thoughts come and crush them. Let those thoughts come and crush them. This is the service of the Benoni. Well, all that is not applicable in chapter 28. Because we can't say when you're supposed to be praying, you should be happy that you're dealing with these thoughts. No, it's a distraction to my prayers. Or when I'm supposed to be studying, or I'm supposed to be saying Psalms. That's not a time when I want to do those other services of crushing the evil. I got all day long to do it. And I probably do it all day long. I'm probably challenged all day long. But when I pray, when I study, when I say Psalms, those are holy times. I want to be focused on what I'm doing. So therefore, the advice of chapter 27 doesn't work in this very specific type of situation. So to give a complete working through of the concept of thou shalt not be sad, we need chapter 28 as well. Because chapter 26, we learned we can't be sad because of anything physical. We can't be sad because of transgressions. 27, you can't even be sad by the thoughts that come that you don't think, but you're still upset you're getting them in your mundane world. And chapter 28, not being sad by those thoughts that bombard you in your most spiritual moments. It's such a distraction. It's such a nuisance. I want to talk to God. I don't want to deal with this. Why is it happening? That's chapter 28. So the chapter focuses specifically on prayer, though, again, the same is true for Psalms or for Torah study. The same themes will be applicable. But chapter 28, the example it's giving for this whole concept is prayer. So I'm assuming most people here pray. I'm assuming most people here occasionally or more than occasionally get distracted when they pray. I mean, that's my common experience, unless I'm really working. So what do you do when you're distracted during your prayers? You're trying to pray, you've got some or many distracting thoughts. What do you do to try to stop them? Anyone want to tell me their personal strategies here?
Hi, Cheryl.
Hi, Chava.
So I try to read out loud and to put more expression in, like, not just loud, because sometimes I read loud and I still, my thoughts are all over the place. But I'm trying to, like, almost, I don't know, like
Inflect the words.
inflect the words, put more emotions in each word, like really like put emotions and like colors in each word.
That's a
That-
beautiful strategy. That probably works.
Yeah.
That's beautiful. So Chava first said, and this is very true, out loud.
Yeah.
The Rebbe definitely says that. Now, the law is, again, which often people have a hard time with, but the law is that you're supposed to, your voice is supposed to be audible when you pray. So we're always supposed to be saying the words out loud, but there's out loud and there's loud. So we're always supposed to be out loud. And I know for myself that took many years of work, because I have many years of not doing it out loud, and changing something that's very ingrained is very difficult. So it took me quite a long time to pray out loud. And then what I was saying is, and then when her thoughts wander, to say those words loud. And that's true. And the Rebbe speaks about that, about putting energy into the words, having them loud and powerful. And that definitely are anchors, hooks, to keep us focused on the words. And I like Chava's idea that also inflecting the words with emotion, with feeling, that makes each word significant and powerful. And that really keeps your mind there, instead of like, you're like, whoa, how did I get to this page so fast? Where was I? So that's beautiful. That's a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful tip. Anyone else? What do you do when you're praying and you're distracted?
Hi, it's Lisa. I feel like I'm talking way too much tonight, so I'm sorry.
It's okay. We forgive you for it, Lisa. Yeah.
Well, many years ago, I learned how to meditate. And when you meditate, you are supposed to have an empty mind and clear your mind of all thoughts, whether you're stating a mantra or whatever. And you're supposed to push any thoughts out of your mind, let them float away like balloons over your head. So I've been able to use that same concept when I'm praying. And the key is just to be mindful that you're doing what you're doing. Okay, I am praying now. And so it's the same sort of thing, not to let any other thoughts come into what you're doing, and catch yourself quickly and let those thoughts float away like a balloon to be addressed later. That's what helps me.
That's beautiful. That is beautiful. So Lisa said a really key word there, mindful. That mindfulness really, which means mindful really means watching your mind, using your mind, focusing with intent, with purpose, and not letting your mind just have its, your mouth are saying the words and your mind is on a different trip. No, rein it in, be mindful of the words. So what I do that I find helps me, again, I don't want to sound like I do this all the time, because I don't. But when I do it, I find it often helps when I'm slipping, is to put my finger to the words. And I think it's exactly what Lisa means about mindful. It's just like another reminder of where I am in the prayers, and of focusing on those words and staying with the words, and not in, Never Neverland, not being one of those balloons, Lisa's balloons floating away. I don't want to be one of those balloons floating away. My mouth is saying the words, but my mind is one of those balloons. No. I want to anchor my mind to the words. And for myself, I find what Chava said works. Loud helps me. Now, if you remember, if you don't, the Alter Rebbe and Tanya actually speaks about also when we learn, when we study, we should say the words out loud and ideally loud. And again, that happens to be the law, is that you're supposed to hear your mouth as you study as well. There are some little exclusions there as verses in prayer, where besides the first line of the Shema prayer and the first blessing of the, and the, I'm sorry, the first line of Shema prayer, the second line of the Shema prayer, which you're supposed to whisper, the Baruch Shem line, and the Shemona Esrei prayer, the Amidah that you're supposed to whisper. But the rest of it is supposed to be out loud. And the Rebbe says, and if you need it, if you need an anchor, loud. And also when we study, we're supposed to hear our words. We're not supposed to be reading with our eyes. We're not supposed to be reading with our lips. We're supposed to hear a voice. We're supposed to turn on our voice as we study. And I find for myself also, it is so powerful. It is such a different experience if I clearly, loudly say the words as I study, as versus if I just study with my eyes. So I definitely see Chava's tip that she shared. Loud really helps. And I'm saying also, I find pointing with the finger really helps. Anyone else? What do you do when you are distracted during prayers? If you say you're never distracted, that's amazing, but I find that hard to believe. I mean, maybe you are never distracted. That's amazing. But for the rest of us that are distracted, what do you do to try to focus yourself when you pray, when you're getting distracted?
Sometimes this sounds a little cruel, but sometimes I give myself a little clock with the heel of my hand on the side of my head and say, come on. And then, yeah. And then sometimes I'll just try to close my eyes while remembering the place I was at and just take some breaths and tell myself, not out loud, but you could do it.
Beautiful. Wow. I like that. Just breathe it through and refocus. You can do it. You can stay focused, refocus, clop, refocus. And then you have like a fresh start. It was like a restart.
You know, a lot of times it works. I all different times when I get distracted again, but sometimes there's not so much of a space I would like it to be, but sometimes I think it's normal with regular people to get distracted and just to try to do better. And there's times when if I'm especially home by myself, that I'll sing stuff and that makes me happy and follow. But the truth is, if you do with your finger or a bookmark or something with the lines, it is helpful.
Yeah, I find bookmarks helpful for Tehillim. I like that. I'm saying a lot of Tehillim to use a bookmark.
But I also wanted to bring up, it's easier for me to concentrate with Tehillim, saying it in the flow, than it is a lot of times to daven, and that disturbs me.
That's so interesting. I know some people say they have an easier time saying Tehillim than davening, but to concentrate, that's interesting.
The flow, the flow of it. And I don't know why that is with me.
Maybe you're a Tehillim Yid. They would call them Tehillim Yids or Tillim Yids. They use both Tehillim Yids and Tillim Yids, which we usually envision this old Jewish bubby saying a lot of psalms all day long.
Not all day long, trust me.
But I have found a number of people that have told me they much more connect to psalms than to prayers. And I think it's just something in the psalm that just naturally like pulls out of us a certain thing because of its great spiritual power. And I don't think it's like a bad thing. I think it's true. And I'm saying, you're not the first person that's told me this. For myself personally, I guess the difference by me is I understand the words of prayer, but I don't usually struggle. I don't usually demand for myself to try to understand the words of Psalms because it's much more complex, the construction. So I wouldn't say I understand the words. I mean, yeah, maybe if I tried, maybe some phrases here, there. I don't try. Like I just say the words, and I just in general have in mind, God, this is to bring down kindness and compassion, and then for whatever reason I'm saying the psalm, I'm just focusing on bringing down the kindness and compassion. But by prayer, maybe again, because I understand what I'm saying, if I'm focused, if I'm saying it loudly, like Hava said, if I'm pointing with my finger, I really can be into the prayer. And I've had some very incredible prayer experiences, and I've had many experiences that feel sort of meaningless. And what I think is important to recognize, just like Sarah was saying about like sort of not beating ourselves up over it, understanding our humanity, I think it's very important when you pray meaninglessly to keep praying. Because sometimes, and this isn't only true for prayer, this is true for many things. Sometimes when something is like, well, what am I praying for? When I don't even know how I got to the Amidah, this one esrei this fast. I'm done. Where was I? I don't even know. What did I say? My chitas, I don't know what I said. Don't ask me what parsha it is. I have no clue. Yes, I said my chitas. I have no clue what I said. So person can feel, so what's the point in that? Is that really how you're supposed to say your chitas? No, not at all. Is that how you're supposed to pray? No, not at all. So what am I doing it for? Because as you keep doing it, then you're giving yourself the opportunity someday to do it right. If you keep doing it meaninglessly, there's going to be that day when you're more focused, when you're more vulnerable, when you're more appreciative, when something inspired you and you actually do it right. And then you can turn the whole thing around and start doing it right. But if you stop when it feels meaningless, then you never have that opportunity to actually do it for real. And with prayer specifically, we're taught that when you do pray for real, it actually elevates all those meaningless prayers, all those prayers that felt like my mind wasn't there, my heart wasn't there, maybe my words were there. I don't even know. So what did I accomplish? A lot of prayers that went nowhere. True. But when you pray meaningfully, those prayers ascend on those other prayers' wings. Why? Because only because of those many, many, many meaningless prayers did you ever come to that meaningful one. So they all fly with those wings. Okay, so we will stop at this point. And it was nice to hear tips from the field, from real life. How do we deal with ourselves in prayer? And we will be discussing that over the course of this chapter. It's a short chapter, but very, very relevant, as we all know. Does someone have something they would like to share? Something nice that happened this week? I have something I would like to share. Rachel, who's on, was one of my, obviously a week has a lot of things going on in it, but definitely one of my miracles of this week. Because Rachel decided that, like, oh my gosh, I have to take care of these turns that somehow haven't put themselves together to build bookcases, and it's so simple, and hammer, hammer, nail, nail, drill, drill, cut, cut, and there, poof, here's bookcases. Or probably a little longer than that. But that was really special. I'd like to thank Rachel. I'd like to thank God for this kindness. I'm very excited because we have had, like, I can't tell you how long. Many of my husband has many, many, many books, thank God. And many of them just like impiled because we didn't have the bookcases for them. Don't ask. And now, God willing, soon we will. And that's very, very, very exciting. And I'll be able to get rid of the 2 tables in my living room full of books because the books will have a place. So thank you so much, Rachel. And thank you so much, God, for that very, very special gift of this week that made me feel so taken care of. It was so nice to feel so taken care of.
For me, it says chutz. Sorry.
So nice.
Very nice. Very nice. I am not exaggerating. Very nice. And I mean, and it's amazing that I said to one of my sons, it's like so weird. We haven't had bookcases for so long. And then Rachel makes it seem so simple. Well, you go to Home Depot and you cut and you drill and you this and you that, and then you have a bookcase. Like, what's the big deal? So yes, very, very, Very nice. And
I just wanted to say that it is my zchut, and like I told you, I don't know any other rabbi and rebbetzin in this town that is more deserving to have the help
applications.
and give a hand.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you very much. We appreciate it very, very, very much. Someone else, something they want to thank God for, something nice that happened this week.
I saw online that Aliza and her family made it to Florida. So that's really a miracle.
Yeah.
It's a bittersweet miracle for them because their hearts are still in Chernigov. Is that how you say their place?
It is a bittersweet miracle. I pray for all the Jews in Ukraine, and I pray for all of the ones that are refugees. I bombard God with a lot of prayers and charity because it can't be easy being a refugee. And thinking about home and thinking about when we'll be able to go back home and what will be there when you get there and where are you going to put your 10 children for the duration and what are you going to do with yourself and how long is that duration? There's a lot of hard things. So yeah, it's amazing. And I saw very beautiful. I had 3 students that are shlichus, emissaries of the Rebbe in Ukraine, and they all got out and they're all in safe places now. And I pray for all of them, because it must be very difficult and obviously very, very difficult for the Jews that are there. And Hashem, just looking at how much Jews love Jews. Chava last night in the class, she said something really beautiful. So I'll quote in her name. She's here. You're supposed to say things in the name of people. We're talking about Purim, and I was asking for ways we see that the story of the Megillah is current events, because the Baal Shem Tov says if you read the Megillah as if it's ancient history, you didn't really read it. And people said many beautiful things, and Chava says really touched me that the unity of Jews now, that we really feel that unity of all of us just loving Jews and caring about Jews, and our hearts and our minds are thinking about Jews that we don't know who they are. We don't know their names, and we love them so much and we care about them so much. And that's happening all over the world. And that is just like what happened in Purim, when the Jews under that oppression united. And that was such a power that brought redemption. And we are in this very painful situation, but really feeling so strongly the love between all of us. And that's
maybe it's a way for Hashem to gather us, to get us out of, hopefully that won't happen in any other country, to have to live in such a way, because of a war. But it might be that we're all ready to go to Jerusalem for the Geula.
Well, I was thinking when they had there were 2 orphanages I saw. I'm sure there were more, but once I saw one that 120 children that went to Germany and 85 that went to a different orphanage, different city, went to Eretz Yisrael, went to Israel. And it was that sense like, oh yeah, for these little children, it's so beautiful that they're not going to grow up in the Ukraine, that they're going to grow up in Israel. Like that's beautiful. That's beautiful. It should be with kindness and compassion. God should do it with kindness and compassion.
Amen.
Someone else have something they would like to share? Something, their miracle from the week, or their thing they want to thank God for?
Yes, my Rebbetzin gave me such an amazing advice, interpreted in a way, a letter that I got from the Rebbe about learning in a deeper way, be'iyun, it says. And what it did to me and to my family, I mean, it really, it's like a light bulb. All the years I thought I was doing one thing in a certain way, and then you came and told me what I really need to do, which really, really helped. I don't want to get into details, but it's a big miracle for me. It really changed the course of my days and life. Thank you.
Baruch Hashem that we have the Rebbe for such guidance. Baruch Hashem. Baruch Hashem. Anyone else? Anyone else have something they want to share? Something they want to give thanks? Okay, so this time I was prepared. I checked the Besuras HaGeula, the book that I read, that we always did, and especially now in honor of Liba. And I was sort of expecting and was correct that they didn't have anything for this week's Torah portion of Vayikra. So just the whole idea of the sacrifices is really about giving your mind and your heart to God. Now, it's not like, oh, they sinned and then they bought an animal and then they were forgiven. No, it only counted if you were with your mind and with your heart invested in this whole process. And that was really the point. And that's really the Jew's relationship to God, is really being there, not just through the actions, but with our mind and with our heart, and opening up for us a world. That's the Rebbe says more than once that we bring Mashiach by living Mashiach. Mashiach is a time when we are in sync with God. I think especially in the realm of trust. Because what does trust mean? Trust means I look at the physical and I see it as God. There's a physical illness. It's God. There's a financial situation. It's God. There's a war. It's God. I look at the world and I see God. That's trust. And that's what Mashiach means. Mashiach means a world where God is completely revealed. So you're going to look and you're going to see physical things, not problem, but you're going to see physical things. But you're going to see more intently than you see the physical. You'll see the spiritual energy that vivifies those things. So living Mashiach, the Rebbe said we bring Mashiach by living Mashiach. Living Mashiach is living with trust. And that's, like I'm saying, sort of thematic to the Torah portion of Vayikra, which is about the offerings, where we're really talking about offering ourselves up to God, offering our minds, our hearts, our beings to God. And when we live with trust, that's exactly what we're doing. So we should always have good news to share. See God, not just that we have to trust and He's there, but He should be completely exposed. As we trust, He should more and more and more be so visible that one doesn't need to trust. He's there. And that should be for ourselves personally, and we should see it in the world. Any hard situations in the world, any painful situation in the world, we should see, and the people involved should see, God's loving presence in all the details. Thank you so much for joining. It should be
Amen.
very,
Thank you.
very, very, very real.
Amen.
Yeah, good.
Amen.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Amen.
Thank you.
Amen. Amen.